Good morning. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Michael Wright and Attorney Rick Schulte. We have the honor of representing the family of Andre Hill. As you all know, this has been an extremely emotional, tragic matter that happened a few days before Christmas. And we're going to respond to the latest developments that were revealed from the termination hearing and the statements that were made. But we're also going to present some breaking news to you all. But before I do that, I want to let you all know that you will hear from those who were closest to Andre Hill, those who greeted him when he first came into this world, first had life, and you will hear from those who he gave life to. We have his daughter, Carissa Hill, who lived with her father, and her 3 children live with her father. We also have his sisters, Shauna Barnett and Michelle Hairston, and we have his brother, his only brother, Alvin Williams, who will also make remarks over this latest development. The breaking news this morning is that the police department in the city leadership from the mayor's office made the responsible decision to release all the body cam video of all the officers. They are declaring that they're going to be transparent, and that is very important because people need to believe that their city leadership is not trying to hide anything from them. So Attorney Wright and Attorney Schulte and I got to review the video of the body cameras from the police officers, and we have what is a clip that we believe is most germane and most telling, not only about the unnecessary, unjustifiable, and senseless shooting of Andre Hill, but also in the aftermath of the shooting of Andre Hill, just a couple of days before Christmas. So you're going to see this video clip and the issue, and really this is the crux of the matter. The issue of this press conference: where is the humanity for Andre Hill? Where is the humanity for this Columbus citizen who had committed no crime, had no weapon, was unarmed, only holding a cell phone? Where is the humanity for this citizen, for this father, this grandfather, this brother? It is important to note that Andre Hill was only holding a cell phone in his left hand. It was a 311 non-emergency, non-criminal call for a loud car. But they shot him 4 times, and when they shot him and he went on the ground, he was struggling for life for 5 minutes and 11 seconds. He's on the ground struggling for breath. and none of the police officers rendered medical assistance to him. Not one of them rendered medical assistance to him. In fact, it is alleged they called their FOP lawyers before they called EMS. And then, inexplicably and unbelievably, after he had been lying motionless on the ground for over 5 minutes, one of the supervisors told the officers to handcuff him. And you see on the video, they handcuff a dying man who was unarmed. Is it because he's a black man and said with the guns already pulled, Officer Detweiler had her gun ready to be drawn, and the statements from Officer Detweiler were very informative because Adam Coy did turn on his body camera. We could not hear what transpired in those less than 10 seconds before he was shot multiple times. And so she helps fill in a lot of the blanks when she states that he claimed he has a gun, and then shot momentarily after he made those announcements. And she said 3 important things. Number 1, she didn't see a gun. Number 2, that she didn't feel threatened. And most importantly, number 3, is that he offered no verbal commands before he started shooting Andre Hill. He didn't say, stop. He didn't say, freeze. He didn't say, put your hands up. He didn't give Andre Hill a chance. He didn't give him a chance. And so it makes you think about if he just gave Andre Hill a chance, Carissa wouldn't be heartbroken during this Christmas holiday. Her son, 6 years old, wouldn't have saw it on TV and say, well, Big Daddy, can't get off the ground. Her 4-year-old son and her 3-year-old daughter wouldn't be asking, when is Big Daddy coming home? If they just would have given them a chance. I mean, they didn't give them a chance like they didn't give 12-year-old Tamir Rice, who was shot in less than 1.7 seconds when the police pulled up while he was playing on the playground by himself. They didn't give him a chance like they didn't give George Floyd a chance when the police officer put his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and never once took the knee off his neck. They didn't give him a chance, Attorney Schulte, like they didn't give Jonathan Crawford a chance in Beaver Creek, Ohio, when the police shot less than 1 second of having confronted him. I mean, we see young white men who are confirmed mass murderers, who they give a chance. They give verbal warnings. They try to de-escalate the situation. And those are on 911 calls. This is on a 311 call. And you mean to tell me you don't try to communicate? You don't try to engage? You don't try to de-escalate? You shoot first and then you ask questions later? That's why we had to release this video to you all. And I will show you some of the screenshots, and it's all on video, and we will let you know where you can get the, I think it's about, Robert, a minute and 38 seconds. But this shows Andre Hill handcuffed. This is a freeze frame of them going to put the handcuffs on a motionless, limp, dying Andre Hill. And that showed that how they turned him over. They had to turn him over and put his hands behind his back. It just makes you wonder if they would have been trying to save his life versus trying to put handcuffs on him, would Andre Hill still be with us today? This shows the actual handcuffs going on his wrist. And then this last photograph, this last freeze frame, is probably the most difficult one to watch. And it shows they turned Andre Hill on his stomach, put the handcuffs on with putting his hands behind his back, and then they turned him back over. And he is laying almost on his side and is showing his face with the way the handcuffs is behind his back. It makes his sweater rise up. And so I will let Attorney Wright address you about some of the systematic problems that we have identified in the Columbus Police Department. And after that, you will hear from this heartbroken family and their reaction to these latest developments in this breaking news of all the police body cam video being released illustrating that instead of giving him medical attention after he had been lying down on the ground for 5 minutes, the police instead handcuffed his dying body and let him remain on that ground, offering him no humanity, not giving him the benefit of the doubt, the benefit of consideration, nor the benefit of possibility. Attorney Wright.
Good morning. My name is Michael Wright, as Attorney Crump indicated, and I'm co-counseling with Ben Crump on this case. I want to talk a little bit about Adam Coy and the Columbus Police Department. Through our preliminary investigation, we have found out that since Adam Coy was hired in 2001, he's had over 90 complaints. Since 2001, he's had over 90 complaints. There have been 16 of those complaints that have been substantiated. So that means that every complaint of the 90 complaints, the police department, they review, from my perspective, from the Columbus perspective, they review these complaints, and of the 90, there were 16 that were substantiated, meaning that there should have been some type of further action taken against Adam Coy. In 2003, we know that he had 9 complaints in just that year, and he had 4 complaints in 1 month in 2003. In 2008, we know that he was, in 2008, we know that he was in fact investigated, and based on the 2008 investigations, Chief Quinlan made this statement. This is in 2008. This statement says, in a letter I wrote in 2008, while Officer Coy's patrol lieutenant, I made the following observations about Officer Coy. If sustained improvements are not fully realized, a decision whether Officer Coy is salvageable must follow. Should the interventions described above not produce the desired results, a shift towards termination would be warranted, as Officer Coy's service to the Division of Police will have lost all future value. So basically in 2008, we know that Adam Coy had problems that stem back from when he was hired in 2001. So after 2008, in 2012, we know that he was put on a last chance agreement as a result of him bashing a citizen's head on the hood of a vehicle. And that's in 2012. So we know in 2003 he had problems. In 2008 he had problems. In 2012 he had problems. And the Columbus Police Department, they knew about all these issues and they failed to do anything at all to relieve him of his duty. So now fast forward to 2020. The unjustified killing of Andre Hill. This didn't have to occur. If the Columbus Police Department would have done their job and terminated Officer Coy, Adam Coy, before this occurred, then we wouldn't be standing here today. Columbus Police Department, they were on notice. They failed to act, and as a result, we're here today. What this family wants is for Officer Coy to be arrested. They want Officer Coy to be indicted. They want Officer Coy to be prosecuted. They want Officer Coy to be convicted. And they want Officer Coy to be incarcerated for the improper use of force the killing of their family member. So as I indicated earlier, if Columbus PD would have done what they were supposed to do a long time ago, he had 90 complaints. So that's about a complaint every quarter that he was on the job for the Columbus Police Department. I mean, that's ridiculous. He should have been gone a long time ago with the substantiated complaints, with him being on a last chance agreement in 2012. There's no way in the world that he should have still been on the force to have killed Andre Hill. And as a result of that, it is the Columbus Police Department, they are at fault. We can't blame just Officer Coy because he shouldn't have been there. It's the Columbus Police Department. It is the mayor's office. It is everyone who had the authority, the control over Coy, that he should have been terminated far before this incident occurred. So again, this is a very tragic incident, and it's an incident that shouldn't have happened. It absolutely should not have happened. We must hold the police department accountable. We must hold the mayor's office accountable, because if they have done their job, if they have done anything to further discipline Coy, to terminate Coy, to keep him off of the department, then we wouldn't be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Wright. We're going to hear from the family, and then we'll give you the link. First, we will hear from Shauna Barnett, his oldest sister.
It's really hard for me to stand here and keep my composure because I'm completely outraged at how they treated my brother. It makes no sense. They showed no humanity towards him. How can you sleep at night knowing that you did this and left him there and had the nerve to turn him over and handcuff him but not offer him any type of help? Nothing. And let him lay there, gasping for air. No help. If it was on the other foot, how would you feel if someone did that to one of your loved ones? That makes no sense. I'm grieving my brother, and I probably will from now on. This year, 2020, has been awful, but this right here takes the cake for me. I just cannot believe that in this day and age, that we still have to fight for things as basic rights that we have. We're human beings. My brother was the most nonviolent person that you could ever meet. He loved everybody. He was a great father, grandfather, brother. He supported us in everything that we wanted to do. No questions ever asked. He would give you the shirt off his back. And to be met with so much cruelty and violence is unacceptable. And for Adam Coy, for them to present that statement back in 2008, they knew what they were dealing with and took no measures at that time. There's no telling how many other people are like that. There needs to be change, and it needs to be now. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Shauna. Now we will hear from his other sister, Michelle Harrison.
This past week has been probably the hardest week that I've had to go through. To sit there and listen to the statements of Officer Amy describe how they approached the scene how Adam Coy kind of just watched my brother leave the vehicle and go to the garage, and they arrive with their guns drawn and follow him. The way that my brother was treated, to me, is like an animal. He was preyed upon, and he wasn't given any kind of chances. We're completely outraged at what happened. To see my brother laying there, dying and gasping for air, and handcuffed, and to know that there still was no medic call. And there were a lot of cops on the scene, Officer Amy included, and no one reached down and provided my brother any type of first aid help, any human compatibility. They gave him nothing. He lay there dying on a cold winter night on the garage floor. That is not the way you want to see your loved one go. We need to have a change, because no one should have to keep going through this. We should not be going through this over and over. We need something to happen. That's it.
Now, we're going to hear from Alvin Williams, his brother, his baby brother.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to know, how much longer do black lives, black people have to keep waiting for change? There's nothing that has changed from decades to centuries. It almost seems that the slogan is to use less rope and billy clubs and more bullets. The actions that we've seen by not only ex-officer Coy, by all the officers, was some heartless, vicious, uncaring acts for any human life, not only black lives, for anybody that's suffering through this, that's hurt and devastated of how a human being was treated. Andre did not try to escape the scene. He showed no aggression. And the cops' agenda as they exit the car was a motive. You didn't have a motive to do your job properly. Your intentions was to kill, from observing all the footage. You didn't access the scene. You didn't even ask. You didn't even try to figure out what was going on, but to shoot and kill. And after he sat there for over 13 minutes without any type of medical attention, every cop there, minds went blank to do what they were supposed to do. From 1 to 20 to 50 cops, how come not one officer constructed the duties that they were supposed to when there was no threat all the way around the board? Nobody had any type of human emotion or sympathy for this dying man gasping for his last breaths. And then you detain him worse than a caged animal. Not only for Columbus, Ohio, I'm saying this for all the police forces across this land. Your hunting season is over. God bless you, Andre. I love you.
Thank you so much, Alvin and Shauna and Michelle. Very important point. The Officer Detweiler said that Andre never said anything. It says he was walking out to see what was going on. You can only ponder if they would have given him some verbal commands, what Andre would have said. Everybody said Andre was not a violent person. He was a person to de-escalate situations. He was a thinker. He was somebody who played chess. He was somebody who taught his daughter to clear her mind and let it be free of all possibilities. So right now, you will hear from his heartbroken daughter, his legacy, Carissa Hill.
I'm sorry, I'm a little lost for words right now. It's not too much to say, but this is just disgusting. All these procedures that we have to go through to get my father's murders is disgusting. I feel like if it was somebody else, a black man who killed a white man in the threshold of the garage and did all these disgusting things, I feel like they would be in prison or in jail right now. And instead, I have to do all these press conferences and share my dad's life with you guys just for people to make a decision that this was inhumane and that these officers should be in jail. It's just disgusting. I feel like this government letting these officers treat people like this. And the reason why I feel like they let them is because they have numerous complaints and they still let them be on the task force with a badge and a gun. I don't feel safe in Columbus. The community doesn't feel safe in Columbus. Can't even call 911. Non-emergency, you might get killed. You might get somebody else killed. And it's just disgusting how they did my dad. These pictures that I gotta look at, I gotta memorize my dad on the floor for the rest of my life and how nobody helped him. How there's 22 officers on the scene with body footage and not one of them helped my dad. But instead, the first time they touch him is to put handcuffs on him. It's very disgusting, and I don't have anything else to say. I'm sorry.
No. That's your father, and you're speaking your truth. And that is the truth. The first time they touched them was to put handcuffs on them. And so that is the lasting memories they will have of him, his last breaths. Very emotional. Very emotional, and all of us are a little choked up. At this time, we will try to take a few of your questions.
I was wondering if we heard that you love to play chess.
I'm sorry? Okay.
We've heard that he loved to play chess. We know from talking to his friends he was an accomplished cook, chef. I was wondering if any of the family members could talk just a little bit more about what he did recently. Just paint a picture of what he did for work.
I think all of them have great stories of their
When
father.
people ask what did my dad do, I consider him an everything man. He went to Athens. He didn't graduate, but he got all his certifications for business management and culinary arts. So he worked a lot of different fast food management places. Whatever job my dad got a hand on, he took off with it. He always became a manager he was just a great worker. Transportation, I feel like he would take 7 different transportations to get to work. And that was my dad. He was a very hard worker. He could build you a house from ground zero if he wanted to, cook the dinner, I mean everything. He did everything. So when people ask what did my dad do, it's hard to say what he did because he did everything.
What kind of grandfather he was?
To my children, he was a great grandfather. He was very hands-on. The last thing I remember was he had just got back from Cincinnati with a job with his boss. So when he came back, they dropped him off, and when he first walked in the door, he had been gone for like 4 days. So I homeschooled my son for kindergarten, and I just remember the excitement of how happy they was to see Big Daddy. So I remember my son running to him like, Big Daddy, Big Daddy. He's like, hey, big boy. He's like, I know how to read now, Big Daddy. And he was just so excited to tell his Big Daddy that, he was learning. And his Big Daddy was so excited, like, just keep it up, And I'm only 27 years old. My son's only 6 years old. We have to go the rest of our lives without him. And that's something it's hard to think about. It's unbearable, all because of this state and who they hired.
Shauna, his sister, I think, do you want to say a word about what your brother did? We'll have all the family members say a word.
Like my niece Carissa said, he was a person who was all hands-on with everything. Anything you asked him to do, he could do it. He had an entrepreneurial spirit. He was always about business and progressing. He wanted to leave a legacy, for our family, because that's something that as Black people, period, we have no legacies to leave to our children. So that was his number one thing that he wanted to do. So he was always a hands-on person, teaching yourself, learning yourself, do your own research, figure out things yourself, and that's how he was. That's how we all are, actually. So to pinpoint one thing that he did, I can't pinpoint one thing he did because he did it all, and he did it for all of us.
Michelle.
Yeah, like they said, some of the things I remember is him coming over, helping me fix some
Can you
things.
speak a little louder so they can hear you, Michelle? I'm sorry.
Some of the things I remember, some of the things he would come over and help fix things in the house and help me remodel some things. He was always teaching. He was also a learner. He was a good listener. It doesn't show now, but with me, you got to be a good listener. He also was a reuniter. He loved to get the family together. If we were separated for any reason, for any amount of time, he would be the one that would spark up. Hey, where's Michelle at? Hey, where's Chris? Or why isn't Chris over here? We're getting ready to go get her. And he's the one to make that call. You get over here right now. I'm cooking dinner. Let's go. I just remember so many good times with my brother that, like as Shauna said, it's too hard to pinpoint just one thing. He was just an all-around great guy.
And finally, we will hear from Alvin, and then we'll get to your next question. I thought this was a great question that all the family members respond to.
Describing my brother, a chess player is a good description of him, but he had a chess-playing mind with life. Chess is a move before your initial move, even 2 moves ahead. And that's what he did every day with anything that he tried to achieve, and also making sure that his family stayed well constructed and bonded together. All of his efforts was never a bare minimum or just enough to make it. He was always an overachiever. Everything that he did was always to reach the climax of his duties. Andre, all around, he never stopped. He was like a train. He was the caboose of the train. he kept on rolling, good or bad. Even with his downfalls, he went back to that chess mentality to say, I got to take a different approach with my next move in life. And that's what he left me with, was to always have a chess mind strategy.
Thank you. Thank you, Alvin. Next question.
I was wondering, you guys mentioned you would like to see change. What specific things would you like to see?
You know, it's a great question because his daughter actually talked about Andre's Law and the fact that she is hopeful that this pain can be transformed into purpose. And Carissa, I recall, the first day we were talking, she talked about, I want to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again to anybody like it happened to my father. And she talked about having Andre's Law where you have to have that body camera on. And if you don't have that body camera on, you should be terminated. I mean, because people need to see what happened, and it kills them that they could not see what led up to this police using this excessive use of force, shooting him multiple times, killing him. And so that's one of the big changes. Obviously, Attorney Wright went into detail about some of the systematic problems that need to be addressed. It is hopeful
Amen.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will read a communication to the Senate.
Washington, D.C., December 31, 2020. To the Senate, under the provisions of Rule 1, Paragraph 3 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, I hereby appoint the Honorable Deb Fisher, a senator from the state of Nebraska, to perform the duties of the chair. Signed, Chuck Grassley, President pro tempore.
Madam President,
The Majority Leader.
I move to proceed to calendar number 480S3985.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 480S3985, a bill to improve and reform policing practices, accountability, and transparency.
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved.
Madam President,
The Majority Leader.
yesterday the Senate was finally able to proceed to this year's National Defense Authorization Act. A few of our Democratic colleagues have pulled out all the stops to hold back this crucial bill. But last night, a big bipartisan majority of 80 senators voted to proceed. There should be nothing controversial about giving our brave men and women in uniform the tools and training they need to stay safe. There should be nothing controversial about continuing the work of rebuilding and modernizing our capabilities. It should be a nonpartisan proposition that America should keep pace with Russia and China rather than slip behind. We've enacted an annual NDAA for 59 straight years and counting. In the next few days, the easy way or the hard way, we're going to do our job once again. This body will fulfill our responsibility to the men and women who protect our country. So the Senate will be here until we finish this bipartisan legislation. Now, for several days, we've heard some senators say Congress must send more cash to high-earning households who haven't seen any income disruption during COVID-19. Our colleagues who purport to be the champions of vulnerable Americans now say that what struggling people really need is for Congress to stop focusing on targeted relief for them specifically and to instead send thousands of dollars to people who don't need the help. Experts from across the political spectrum agree that our colleague from Vermont is dead wrong on this. Socialism for rich people is a terrible way to help the American families that are actually struggling. So let me say that again. Borrowing from our grandkids to do socialism for rich people is a terrible way to get help to families who actually need it. Washington Democrats took President Trump's suggestion and skewered it so the checks would benefit even more high-earning households. Imagine a family of 5 where the parents earn $250,000 per year and have not seen any income loss this past year. Speaker Pelosi and Senator Sanders want to send them $5,000 from Uncle Sam. They make $250,000. Nobody's out of work, but our so-called progressive friends say the household needs, quote, survival checks. In fact, they believe a family of 5 should have to earn $350,000 before the spigot of government money would stop entirely. Socialism for rich people. That's what Speaker Pelosi and Senator Sanders have sketched out. A terrible way to help those who need it. And experts across the political spectrum agree. The liberal editors of the Washington Post have blasted so-called progressives demanding a non-targeted giveaway that would huge amounts to perfectly comfortable families. Larry Summers, who ran the Treasury Department for President Clinton and the National Economic Council for President Obama, says there is, quote, no good economic argument, end quote, for more non-targeted checks with no linkage to need. The liberal New York Times reported this morning that a majority of the households that get non-targeted checks do not end up spending them on urgent needs, but rather just add to their savings. Quote, we know where the pockets of need are, end quote, said one economist, and, quote, putting money there would be a much more efficient use. Fortunately, Madam President, though some of our colleagues seem to have forgotten, that is exactly what we did only a week ago. It's been less than 5 days since President Trump signed into law another historic bipartisan rescue package targeted to Americans who actually need the help. We passed an entire second round of PPP loans to save small business jobs targeted to the hardest hit. We renewed multiple kinds of additional federal benefits for unemployed workers, including an extra $300 supplement every week. There are billions for targeted food assistance, billions for targeted rental assistance, and many billions of dollars for vaccine distribution so we can finally beat this virus and reopen the economy in full. These are the kinds of targeted emergency programs that directly help the most vulnerable. And we just poured almost another $1 trillion into them less than 5 days ago, along with more direct checks that are already arriving in households' accounts. That, Madam President, is what we did just 5 days ago. This crisis has not affected everyone equally. The data show that many upper middle-class Americans have kept their jobs, worked remotely, and remained totally financially comfortable. On the other hand, some of our fellow citizens have had their entire existences turned upside down and continue to suffer terribly. We do not need to let the Speaker of the House do socialism for rich people in order to help those who need help. Our duty, both to struggling Americans and to taxpayers, is to focus on targeted relief that will have the maximum impact and help the people who need it